All right, everybody. I'm here with my wife, Nicole Jones. She's here with her husband, Matt Jones. And no, we want to make a YouTube video that really dives into finding purpose in your career and realizing when you don't have a purpose in your career that you're on borrowed time. You're never going to last long in a job or a career if you don't have purpose. So that's kind of the premise of what we're going to dive into today. We have conversations at home that get pretty deep, and we feel like we kind of have this enlightenment.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of is driving us to rope the rest of you guys in. And really just like, we've always said like, God, if certain people could be a fly on the wall, I know it sounds kind of arrogant or cocky, but if they could be a fly on the wall and see some of the story and the journey that we've led, they could maybe like resonate with us or like actually feel a little bit of relief knowing that they're not alone in this journey of finding a way to provide and a way to find purpose to your life.
I think it normalizes things too, because you see the people that are successful and you don't really know how they got there, right? And then you just feel like they have something special that you don't have. But the majority of people are living paycheck to paycheck and they're struggling with these things. And so we just want to bring more like awareness to it and talk a little bit about moving forward.
Yeah, it's always funny, right? Because people will call us a power couple. And sometimes it's hard to be like, thank you for noticing, because that's not really how we feel. We're kind of like, we're just on that grind. I mean, call it a power couple, call it what you want, but we just have decided that we both want more out of life. So if you find yourself in that same position where you want more out of life, then I think that like you'll resonate with a little bit of the story. So I'll just kind of jump right into it. And we've been married 15 years, and we've got 4 kids. And in that 15-year period, if you're from Utah, if you're watching this and you understand Utah, it's across the board, Utahns get married at like 20, 21, 22.
And they start having kids right away.
Exactly.
And they don't have a career in place.
It is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Culturally, that's kind of the top line of like what you're expected to do.
What you prioritize is family.
Right, exactly.
And so you're
creating
grinding
a family
with kids with like really no stability at all. And so that's kind of where we were at when we got married.
And I know there are a lot of people out there that started a family with no financial goals, no financial backing. They just were like, you just start a family. And listen, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it creates complications as you go. Okay, so my first job is actually where we didn't meet there, but I mean, we both worked there. It was an alarm company, and I was doing sales over the phone. And I got switched over to a different project where I was making hourly to do some internal stuff for them. Didn't love the job. Found out we were pregnant, and I just remember being like, shit just got real, right? I was like, I'm making like $12 an hour. Like, what are we doing? So anyway, fast forward.
It was not pretty.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty.
There was stressful times, and honestly, just like did not know, just so naive. But moving forward, I dropped out of college, right? Obviously, I just never had drive for school.
I quit my job.
Yeah. You're pregnant.
Because I got sick and
you got bad morning
sickness. Couldn't keep anything down.
Yeah. And so, I mean, luckily I found this avenue for me to do sales, door-to-door, selling food storage. And I absolutely loved doing that, right? Made decent money.
That was the most successful you were probably in all of the 15 years leading up to this moment. Was probably with Daily Bread, but you didn't go right. That wasn't your second job.
It was.
Really?
I would leave the office.
You left Vivint and went to that?
Yeah, it was Apex Alarm, but it was in Provo, and I would leave the office with this binder that Mike Strong, shout out to Mike Strong, I would leave the office with this binder and go knock in the river bottoms in Provo and try to set up appointments when I still had that job.
Oh.
That's where I kind of shifted towards door-to-door sales. Now let's talk about that. So in Utah, obviously, if you have not done door-to-door sales, it's hard to believe you're from Utah if you're a male. And if you served an LDS mission and didn't knock doors, you dodged that whole like career path. But I didn't, so I jumped right into door-to-door sales. Daily Bread went well for a little while, but it really kind of just lulled me to sleep. The money was good enough to make ends meet, but I really didn't have like this end goal of what I wanted to achieve with that job. It was just paying the bills. So when you find yourself in a job that just pays the bills, watch out, because one day the company shifts, commission changes, something goes wrong, and now you're not working there anymore. And so, like, I guess what I want to, like, get by is that I was in and out of door-to-door sales over the first 11 years of our marriage.
And you weren't super successful with them.
No, really wasn't.
There was a lot of moving around, me packing up a 1 and 2 year old to go live in places with no friends, not knowing, you know, anyone, and having a lot of anxiety and depression, never really fully ever getting ahead of
and
our
I
bills
couldn't be there
or
for
debt
you.
or anything.
And I couldn't be there for you emotionally because I was trying to just be there for myself emotionally.
Right.
I was just trying to survive on the doors.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was a tough job because I saw a lot of guys destroy it. Like, come home after a 3-month summer and have $100,000. And, you know, 10 years ago,
that wasn't us.
That wasn't us.
It was
and
not
so
us.
I struggled with the biggest thing that I struggle way less with now, which is identity. I really didn't know who I was.
Well, and I think too, because it's the man's job to provide, like a lot of times in our culture, right? Or just
yeah, it has been for, I mean, the culture of America. Like, man goes to work, woman stays home, and that's shifted a little bit.
A lot,
but it's still there.
That's not to say women can't work, but oftentimes we see that pattern.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
So I didn't have that like confidence in who I was, bounced around from job to job, and after every job would end, let's like be real here, I would go through bouts of depression. I am not a depressed person ever. Like, I really try to stay super positive, but I would go through periods where I felt so horrible. I felt worthless. And this cycle would continue for the most part of 11 years. And it got to a breaking point when I was working at a software tech company called Jive. And I remember sitting at my desk. I had a manager. I didn't really, like the way he managed. I didn't see myself growing in this company. And I'm just here, like, told that I had to make 100 dials a day. So, like, my purpose was wake up and make sure I hit 100 dials that day. Try to close people. But, like, when you're trying to close someone, but you don't even care about the product, you're just doing it so that you can get a paycheck, it shows.
And that paycheck isn't moving you forward in life. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't getting us out of debt. It wasn't getting you to a happier state of being. There was no purpose behind it. It was just empty. It was just the grind of getting by and not even quite getting by, right?
Exactly.
So
yeah, feeling like you're getting by, but you're just trading.
You
time.
have like something come up, like your car breakdown, and we're like, we can't afford that. We're literally living paycheck to paycheck, and I think the hardest part too was like you not being emotionally available, like when.
Yeah, tell me more a little bit about moments where you felt like you needed me, but that you could just maybe see in my eyes that like I'm barely holding it together myself. Any moments that come to mind?
Oh yeah, I mean I think that it was just more like I'm home having depression and anxiety and going through things
probably
from my childhood that I didn't
also
even,
your miscarriages
and going through things that I didn't even really fully understand at the time, and I'm still trying to work through today. But then not feeling like you were very emotionally available for me was a huge struggle for me, because you go and I understand this more today because I work and I help provide as well. That's given me more understanding now, but at the time it was like having you just kind of like check out and wanting an outlet when you would get home. But I'm like, dude, I need an outlet too.
What's my outlet? Go play basketball.
Yeah, sports, basketball, working
out.
Go
to the gym.
But at the time, like, it was like, I'm going to go play basketball. I'm like, dude, I've been home all day alone with a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, 2 children, 3 children, or whatever it is, going through miscarriages, all the things, struggling with anxiety and depression and my health.
Yeah.
And not feeling like you were emotionally available for me, which I think isn't talked about enough, especially in like the Utah culture, but I'm sure in all different areas, right?
Probably right.
Is, when there's kind of that role, like a man and a woman role, and I think that's where a lot of that fight comes in for women's rights, even though what I really think is it's just like a bit of a misunderstanding, because like you showed me that thing today and about a man not feeling heard and seen, and him trying to like show up for his wife and grind, and the struggles that you are going through to become a provider and to push through and to find that next thing and to find your purpose. And I didn't understand the heaviness of that until I decided to start helping contribute financially. When I started helping contribute, it gave me a whole new perspective on what you were experiencing and why you were needing an outlet and why you were checking out. Like, I really think oftentimes as women, or like in a relationship, we put so much pressure on the man to do that, and there's not a lot of like understanding behind what you're going through.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah, it's interesting. And again, we're not speaking to the people out there who the husband, you know, has his dream job. They got married. They're 3 years into a marriage. They're making the type of income where every single need is met, and the wife's happy. The husband's home at 4 or 5. That's not exactly what we're trying to talk to, which is great. Those people, that's great. Awesome.
And there's some people that do get married and experience that, right? This is
sure.
just for those that don't experience that, which I think is actually the majority of a lot of people, because if you read statistics on people living a paycheck to paycheck, it's like 70% of people.
Yeah.
So I really think most people can resonate with this, even if their story's different.
100%. Yeah, so I want to jump back into that moment sitting at the desk where I just knew I was never going to try to become a manager, lead a team at this company called Jive. I just knew that was not going to be my calling. And something came over me where I realized you're going to go through this same cycle of quitting this job, becoming depressed, trying to find a better job with maybe a $10,000 higher base. And I looked at that route in my head, literally as I'm sitting at my desk staring at my computer. These are the thoughts I'm having. So I'm clearly not making dials anymore. And I realized I've had enough. I'm no longer going to try to come home and excite my wife about the next job opportunity that I myself am not even excited about. So I did come home that day.
You still did come home and do that, but...
Well, I did that multiple times. I came home. But this was the time where I came home and I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. I promise you, this is the last time I change careers.
But that was hard for me to trust that when
I didn't care.
There was so
Can I be honest?
many
I didn't
times,
care if you trusted or not.
I know you
I just
didn't.
knew. I knew that it was, in my mind, it was almost life and death.
Yeah, but there were so many times when I was like, here we go again. Here we go again.
Yeah.
New promises, new goals, new crushed dreams. Like,
for 12 years, 11 years.
So many canceled family vacations and all the things, right? Not paying our bills, getting more into debt. Like, so when he comes home and he's like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go do this, what I want to do.
But honestly,
especially because so we're talking about real estate. You already tried doing real estate right before that downturn in 2000.
It was 2009 when I got my license, in the middle of a horrible market.
Yeah. And then that last.
And I could have survived then. Let's talk about that. Is that I could have survived then,
but we didn't.
But I didn't have that resolve to stick to things. I had honestly created a habit of letting other people and circumstances around me be the excuse for my lack of success.
Oh yeah.
That was probably
what they think about
the reason why I failed so many times in jobs, was because I would allow outside circumstances to dictate my success.
100%. And it takes a tremendous amount of grit if you're going towards something that's worth doing, something that you love. You're going to come up against so many roadblocks, and it takes a lot of grit to push through that, especially when people are telling you, like, you're never going to be successful, you're not going to make it, and you're not seeing the immediate results, right?
Yeah.
And so when you tried to do real estate the first time, we fell flat on our face. Then we started, going through all these different job changes. I can't even count how many there were.
Yeah.
But
I don't have
then you come home.
Scorecard for that one.
What was this, 2019?
It was 2018.
March.
It was 2018.
Okay. 2018, March 18th.
Yep.
And he's like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to be a realtor.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, here we go again.
But I don't know how you felt, but in that moment where I know where I was standing in the room, and I know the emotions I had, and I had never before had the type of resolve and determination, because it was life and death to me. Because I knew that I could not continue living the way I was living.
But we both felt that. And that's the thing. I don't know if you knew that I felt that too. Because I remember where I was sitting too. It was a very pivotal moment in our life and in our marriage. And I remember sitting on the bed looking up at you and being like, you're right. Like, we've got to change. Because what we were doing really was spiraling in our marriage. It was spiraling in our finances. It was spiraling just all over in our life. So it was like a moment where we both looked at each other. And it's kind of cool because I love that you got a necklace that has that date on it. Because it was a date when we were like, enough is enough. We're changing our life. It was special.
It really was. It like brings emotion.
And it sucked all at the same time.
But
it was so hard to trust.
The emotion that I felt that day that I feel now is my reminder to never allow myself to make those excuses, never allow myself to let outside circumstances, the economy, the market, to never let that dictate my success. Because I started realizing there are people that make millions and have their breakthroughs in horrible economies. There's not really an excuse. It's all personal accountability. So that moment in our lives, she had the same moment, and it wasn't long after that she found her calling in her business that she's building with Plexus. And that brought a whole new episode that we could do on the challenges of
we'll have to do a whole new
two driven parents of 4 kids trying to make a career, not even a career, but to create their own business from scratch. Because that's what being a realtor, you're building it from scratch. Being a network marketer, 2 of the industries where you literally just have to have guts. You know, you got to grind. So that could be a whole nother episode. But I think
in the moment when we decided that, I remember you came to me and you said, okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to go out with my brother-in-law and I'm going to go do summer sales so that I can make a big enough chunk of money to live off of, so that I can, during that time, take my test. Because you had you're like, in 6 weeks, I'm going to take my test.
I had a plan.
Go door to door.
It was different this time.
I'm going to make this amount of money, and then I'm going to go and be a successful realtor. So it was a plan, but it was like a plan that left me hanging out alone with 3 kids at home. During a time when my health was really struggling. And so it was like, that was so hard to trust that process. And I remember, like, I think you left like 2 days later. Like, it was quick turnaround.
Crazy. Yeah,
you were like, packed your bags, and you're like,
here's what I did.
It was quick.
March 18th, I bought my real estate course. I could only do 8 hours of credit hours per day before the computer program wouldn't let you do more. So I had done about 90% of this course in the basement, 8 hours a day, and I was just like, this is, again, back up against the wall. Like, can you provide for family, or are you just going to be a failure your whole life? So I got that I got it all done, hadn't taken the test, spoke to the real estate guy I was getting in with, and he said, you need a large credit card, or you need savings before you get into real estate, because it'll be 90 days plus before you get paid. And so
it was
he said, you need to go out and do something. He's like, do you want to go knock doors? I was like, no, but like, bro, like, this is it. Yeah, I'll go knock. Call my brother-in-law. 3 days later, I'm in Texas for 6 weeks.
Which, and mind you, like, you weren't super successful in previous summers.
No.
So you were like hell-bent on like, I remember you saying I'll be gone about 8 weeks. I think you ended up shortening it. It was maybe like 7.5. But like, it was like, I have 8 weeks to make enough money to possibly live off of for like maybe 9 months. Like, because we weren't really sure how long it would take to get going.
Well, no, let's be real.
And you hadn't even passed your real estate.
I made enough money to carry us for 4 or 5 months. 4 months. And I should have stayed out longer, but I was like, I got to get back home. I got to be home.
It was so hard on me.
Yeah, I think I made about $25,000 or something like that.
26.
Something like that. But let me just jump down this real quick and explain. The first moment sitting at my desk, realizing I need to change, set into motion a new plan, but it did not remove further obstacles of wanting to quit. I got out there, and let me remind you again, as we said, I was never super successful door to door. Like, I never broke through.
This was a risk.
So this was different, and it was pest control, not security, so I felt like maybe I'll have a better angle there. But what happened was I was 3 days on the doors, and I was gung-ho. I was like, I got this. I'm doing this. And I didn't have a sale after 3 days. And I was with my brother-in-law knocking, and he's like, let me shadow you. Let me do some pitches, and you can watch. And the wave of emotion came over me, and I was like, I'm failing again at
because
this
you're
plan.
living off of past failures, right?
Yeah.
You're thinking of past failures now. So you're like,
but
I've
I was
this
failing.
before.
I was 3
Right.
days in, and I was failing. I hadn't had a sale, and I was confident I would, and I broke down right there on the door. Like, the lady probably saw tears in my eyes, and I said, bro, I got to go back to the apartment. I got to find myself for the rest of this day. And props to my brother-in-law for hearing me out, listening to me, having the intuition to just let me go back. And that was another pivotal moment where I'm like, there is no other option. I've removed all other options of going home, of maybe finding a different way to get into real estate. I walked myself through a million different options, and I said, no, I got to wake up tomorrow, and this shit has to work. But, like, I knew this has to work. There's no other way. And it did. It just clicked. And that was a big victory for me in my life, because I had failed the door-to-door so many times, that to go out for about 8 weeks and leave the office, almost leave the office top 2 or 3, was like the victory I needed to carry on through my real estate career. So, and we could go on forever, but we really just wanted people to understand that not everyone you see that's obtaining success didn't have a difficult journey to get there. Right. So if you are in the middle of your difficult journey, don't let this be another one that just falls by the wayside. Let this difficult part in your life be difficult, but let the resolve that you have to move forward and to take accountability for your success, let now be the moment. And catch us on more YouTubes. We're going to do these more often. Probably turn it into a podcast, have guests, but for now, if you don't want to miss the next video and a little more expounding on different things, like, and more importantly,
subscribe.
Press the little red button and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nicole's YouTube channel.